The Chinese are digging in their heels here and seem to be gearing up for a long-term fight. You've got messaging coming out of state media that experts are saying this could last until 2035. What's your take on the level of seriousness here?
I think it's gone from D.C. and Beijing to spreading out to Silicon Valley and other aspects of our economic lives. And I think we're just at the beginning. I think certainly the rhetoric has really become much heavier, and I think we're really in for a long run.
This list of unreliable entities, Tom, is rather vague, and it could expand to multinational companies that aren't just based in the United States, but based in Japan or
everywhere.
The UK. What are we thinking the impact could be?
Toshiba. I mean, the sky is the limit, right? It's very vague. We don't know exactly who's on that list, but it could include any number of companies that are, doing business between these two countries. You have companies like Intel and Qualcomm. Apple, of course, could be drawn into this in a profound way. Chip makers are exposed. Really, I mean, the ambiguity and the vagueness is part of what makes this so so terrible for U.S. companies, and creates this degree of uncertainty that's really weighing on the stocks throughout the market today.
Rebecca, what's your sense of how this could materialize or actually be executed on the part of the Chinese?
Well, I do think what we're starting to see is a separation of tech spheres, so that China will become much more dependent on its own technologies, and Silicon Valley, U.S. will become much more dependent on its technologies. And so we're going to see this separation of technology worlds. And it's really not a good thing for consumers or businesses, because prices will rise, and we will all suffer. Innovation will suffer as well. So I think this is definitely not a good trend.
Now, I also want to talk about what's happening with Mexico. The president
right.
threatening 5% tariffs starting June 10th if the Mexican government doesn't take effective action on illegal immigration. I sat down with Nick Woodman, the CEO of GoPro, a few months ago, and he talked about how they had moved some production from China to Mexico as a result of what was happening between the U.S. and China. Take a listen to what he had to say.
We said, let's go research where else we would build our products for the U.S. market. We landed on Mexico, and as through our research, we learned that there were also financial benefits, logistical benefits to doing so anyway, regardless of tariffs or no tariffs. So whether or not the tariff threat to our product category becomes real, we're happy to be moving our U.S.-bound production to Mexico.
Well, the tariff threat on China is real, and we don't know what's going to happen with Mexico. But
That's
now,
right.
now they're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Right, and I think Rebecca hinted at this earlier, you're seeing, and what you're going to see is the emergence of different supply chains. So much of production, particularly in consumer electronics, which is a topic that we think about and talk about all the time, Emily, has happened through China. But now, given the trade tension between the U.S. and China, companies like GoPro, like Nick Woodman was saying, have to look elsewhere. Where can we source our products? Where can we finish our products? How can we move the supply chain out of China? We talk to companies every day who are telling us we are looking to increase capacity for production outside mainland China, whether that's Southeast Asia, whether that's Taiwan, whether that's Mexico. They're doing that. And now what they're seeing is, oh no, Mexico's not a safe place either. And so that's going to really affect the automakers, and it's going to affect a lot of consumer electronics companies like HP, Dell potentially, which do some of their production south of the border.
Now, we've talked a bit about this tale of two tech industries, or tale of two internets, certainly between the U.S. and China, and to some extent, it already exists with the firewall in China, the many U.S. technology companies that are blocked or don't do business in China. But Rebecca, if, let's say, somehow a deal is struck down the line, can they ever return to the prior sort of state of affairs? Or will this dispute, will this war essentially be fresh?
Well, I think the whole uncertainty of it now is causing companies and to really refigure and re-strategize their whole plan, and so they will having to have new alternative sources in place, and so that will be hard to unravel. And so just like now, these global supply chains, they're so intertwined, even that is going to be hard to break apart. So anyhow, it's just very complex time.
Meantime, Tom, the president is planning to visit the UK, have a talk with outgoing Prime Minister Theresa May about Huawei specifically, and to express his concerns because the UK is at a sort of fork in the road where they're considering using Huawei equipment in some of their commercial networks.
That's right.
What do we expect to happen there?
So you have this huge build out in 5G, this next generation of wireless technology that's going to enable this ubiquitous wireless coverage. And a lot of companies and a lot of countries are still really dependent on HUAWEI, which is the leader by a long shot in this area. And the US has had a hard time getting European allies on board with their "you must ban Huawei" rhetoric. Their view is it's better, it's more economical, and you have not proven to us that Huawei really represents a national security threat for us in these countries outside of the US, and even in the US, by the way. So there are a lot of European countries that are not on board with it. And that's what I think his message is going to be when he's in Europe, is get on board, Huawei's a threat, ban Huawei, go elsewhere.